Welcome to a live edition of Max Rev's Sunday Lockdown Special. It's the third live stream we've done. It's the first one on a Sunday. I know you've probably all been watching the news. I thought I'd give you something other than the daily grind out there. Before we get started, I just wanted to have a big short shout out to the healthcare workers out there. Globally, I know they're doing a great job. But today, we're just going to talk about Cayman. So we've got 3 Cayman GT4 owners here, the 718s. And I'm going to basically quickly show you a video intro to their car. We're going to start top left. So I'm making this up as I go along. I've never quite done this before. Bear with me if we get any technical issues. But here is the first intro. There we go. There we go. So I know we said Boris should go first. That was your car being there showing there, Phil. So that was your beautiful gentian blue. Tell us about the car. I mean, when you buy a 718 GT4, they're pretty much like it's like 911 Carrera money. So just sort of talk us through what made you want to get into the car, why you chose the GT4, the colours, the spec, and over to you.
Yeah, cheers, Max. Thanks for the opportunity as well to pop on your evergreen channel. A pleasure, an honour. So the 718 GT4 for me was a natural progression, really. I'd had a Cayman S before that and a Boxster GTS. I'd always wanted the original 981 GT4, couldn't get one at the time in the UK. The second gen came out, the 718, it looked good, and it was just random timing, actually. I was actually popping into my Porsche dealer to change my winter wheels for summers, or maybe the other way around. No, winters for summers, and it was the day after the announcement was made. So I spoke to the dealer and kind of ordered it there and then, just to get a build slot, and that looked promising. And then I spent the next 8 weeks doing about 40 configs on the configurator to get to the spec that you saw in the video. So gentian blue, leather inside, contrast silver stitching, PCCBs, the Club Sport package. So yeah, very, very happy with the car.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll now go over to Boris. So let's get a quick video intro of your car and then talk us through. Okay, a bit of a technical issue. Let's try that one again. There we go. There we go. I'm not sure if we've gone live. What happened here? Yes, we can see. Okay, fine, fantastic. I'm getting something saying this is not live at the moment, so that's great that we can still see this. Sorry about the lack of professionalism here, but Boris, over to you, mate.
Hi, Max. Hi, everyone. Good to be back on the channel. So the video played, I assume.
Yes, I hope it did. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, going back to your original question, which you asked Phil, why did I take a 718 GT4? Actually, initially, I had a 911 right before this, so I had already experienced the 911. I wanted something that was mid-engine, something that was different. Initially, I never thought I'd have a Cayman, but the idea of having a naturally aspirated engine where everything's going turbocharged and having that perfect balance where you have the engine in the back, rear-wheel drive, I thought it'd be a great opportunity and something that would be new. That coupled with the manual would be unique because every other car I've had in the last 3 years has been in auto. So yeah, I've had the car now for 4 or 5 months and it's great. I'm having a really good time with it.
Fantastic. Okay, now I'm going to introduce Klaus. No detriment to you guys, but Klaus has got a rather special 718 GT4. So let's roll the intro video for him, and then Klaus, you can tell us all about your special car. There we go. Yes, over to you, Klaus.
Yeah, I'm one of the few lucky owners of the 718 GT4 Sports Cup Edition here in Germany. How did I get, why did I want to buy a GT4, or especially the Sports Cup Edition? I was looking for a GT4 in 2015 as the first 981 GT4 was released, and I was thinking, shall I buy one or not? And as I made my decision to buy one, it was too late, and they offered me a Spider. And I was like, I don't want to have a Spider. I want to have the GT4 because I already had a 987 Cayman. And in the summertime, as the 982 was released, I was interested in the car, but the guys at Porsche already said there is a PDA coming in the future. So I was like, should I wait a little bit longer, or should I take the manual one? Everybody's talking about the manual transmission. That's so fantastic and everything. But I was like, maybe the PDK has the extra bit of, power, better times and everything. And I'm also a little bit, I like the PDK pretty much also on the 911. So, I was waiting a little bit longer. And out of a sudden, in October, the Sports Cup edition was released. And that was such an eye-catcher and such an iconic car for me. And I had the opportunity to buy one. So here we go. I have it.
That's fantastic. Can I ask you about the option configurator on the Sports Cup edition? Because I've tried to configure my own 718 GT4. And to be honest, it's mind-boggling the configurations that Boris and Phil would have had to go through. I think, how many configurations did you have, Phil, by the way?
I think, sad to say, probably 30 plus, right? So... maybe that's a testament to the pain of the Porsche configurator, right? I think it's overwhelming, right? Everything's hidden in little menus and drop downs, and I think a revamp of that would be good from Porsche, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always finding myself selecting an option, and then it says, if you have this, I have to take away all these other things that you've added to your car. So, yeah, for me, it's a bit tricky. But was it a bit easier for you, Klaus, in the sense that because it's such a unique car, did it have many options on there already?
Yeah, Porsche already made the decisions for me, let's say it this way. I mean, the base Sports Cup edition has so many stuff included. The carbon seats, for example, I wanted to have them anyways, but the carbon seats are one factor, for example, the lighted stuff inside, all the aluminium, the part where you close the fuel tank, everything, all these special stuff that you can order in a normal GT4 are already included in the Sports Cup edition. Besides this normal stuff that you can order on the normal GT4, there are some very nice features that you might have seen already in one of the videos that Max already showed. And that's makes the car so special. So basically, the only stuff I've put extra on the Sports Cup edition was the camera in the rear for the parking. I think that there is a extra net down on the right hand side, and so only minor things that I added. So basically the car was configured. There's not pretty much to choose. You cannot go for the normal seats, for example, if you want to have the Sports Cup edition. You have to go with all that stuff.
I mean, it's fantastic that we've got you here, because Neil just put a question up, and I know Neil, so he has purchased about over 6 new Porsches in the UK, but he wasn't even offered a 718 GT4. So Boris and Phil. So Phil, which country are you based on for our viewers, just so they know?
I'm in Switzerland, Max. I live in Zurich.
Okay, cool. So what I'd like to kind of go through is that in the UK, especially in the USA, you have to be on good terms with the Porsche dealership. You had to have bought many cars from them before, and it's a real relationship you have to work at to be offered a 718 GT4. In Germany, I mean, how is your relationship in order to buy a GT4? Do you have to do the same things that we may have to in the UK or USA, or would you say it's a bit easier?
Compared to you guys, I think it's a little bit easier, but of course you have to be a customer. You don't come into the shop and say, I want to have a GT4, I want to have a GT3 RS, whatever. So you need a history. You need a car, and of course, that's at least my opinion. I think that Porsche loves to see people who already bought a couple of cars, or who stay with their cars, for example, who don't only buy the cars and sell the cars, who really love the cars, who drive the cars. And that is, for example, also one thing that the Sports Cup edition is all about. It's about driving. It's about going on the weekend onto one of these Sports Cup weekends, having fun with other guys, joining the races, doing the training and all that stuff. So in my opinion, you need a history. I think in the UK it's a little bit more, it's a little bit harder to get one of your GT cars, not only the GT4. I guess it's also even hard to get a GT3 or even a GT2 RS. But of course, yeah, you need kind of a history. That's for sure.
I think Klaus raises an interesting point. Actually, the point of buying the cars from a dealer, the idea is that the dealer gets to know you better and can predict your behavior in terms of what you're going to do with this car that's going to be allocated to you. So a lot of these cars, for example, the GT3 RS or the GT2 RS, they're going way above stickers. So one way of someone knowing, or a dealer knowing, that you have the right intentions is through your purchase history, knowing that you've kept your cars, knowing that you drive them, knowing that you haven't flipped cars previously. And that just kind of gives you merit going forward. And then, you're a better candidate than someone else.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I know we've kind of mentioned some of your previous purchase history. So, Klaus, do you mind me asking, I mean, if this was your first Porsche, or have you owned Porsche cars before?
No, I had the first Porsche I bought was 12 years ago, was a 987 .1 2.7. So really the base Cayman, the first one ever built. Let's say it like this way, and I still have it. I still have it in my garage, by the way. It's standing next to my GT4 right now, and I love the car, I have to say. And this is also one of the reasons why I wanted to go for a Cayman again, because I love the way a Cayman drives. It's a little bit different to the 911. Doesn't mean that the 911 is bad, but it's a different kind of driving, and I love the two-seaters. So, and the mid-engine concept, of course, is a super nice way of driving in a sporty way. So this was my first car, the 987. From a family member of mine, I later received an older 993 in beautiful silver, which is basically my favorite Porsche, one of the nicest Porsches ever built. And my wife also had did something different, but she was the owner of last time she had a GT3 991.1. So we had a couple of Porsches in the house, and now we have our latest family member, the Sports Cup edition.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, I mean, Phil, if I can come over to you, you mentioned that you were looking to get a 981 GT4, but you didn't get an allocation. You didn't get the chance to purchase one. So, were you trying to get hold of a Porsche before you got your 718 GT? Well, clearly you were trying to get hold of a Porsche beforehand, but if you could maybe talk us through some of the cars you had before until you got your current beast, that'd be great.
In terms of Porsche, I don't really have a long history. I had one. It was years back now. I was actually wanting to buy an Audi S5, and the Audi dealers were really useless at selling me one. And I just thought I'd try some of the cars out. Was waiting to take the train home. Thought I'd pop into a dealership to kill some time. It was a Porsche dealership, and the guy gave me a car to drive home. A very clever salesman, and I then got a Cayman S. After that, I moved to Switzerland, and for a year I had the Cayman S over in Switzerland, which is a little bit strange with a right-hand drive and a left-hand drive society, mostly for the car parks and the supermarket, because you can't press the button for the ticket. And then I sold that back to the dealer in the UK, and then I got a GTS, a Boxster GTS out here from the dealer. So to your point, Max, about the difficulty, I didn't really feel there was a difficulty getting a GT4 in Switzerland. And I think that's because of the nature of this Porsche market in Switzerland. I think Switzerland's a 911 Porsche market. You don't see as many Caymans around that you do in the UK, for example, or maybe the rest of mainland Europe. I think maybe there's still that stigma that the Cayman isn't quite a real Porsche. And I think it's quite clear now that those product lines have diverged, right? I think even Porsche, it's clear now they're not competing with each other. They know they're a different market. They're a really different car. And yeah, you're right. It's 911 money, but the 911's an awesome car, but it's not what I was looking for. I wanted a smaller car, that mid-engine feel, that precision. I still think Porsche hamper it. I think not in horsepower now, but in terms of torque, I think the Cayman needs a little bit extra torque to give it a little bit more boost in the naturally aspirated config at lower revs. But yeah, long answer there, Max. But that's
good. That's good. I mean, to be fair, a question for you, Klaus. So you currently have your 987. Did you say was it a Gen 2?
It was Gen 1.
Gen 1, and is it a base?
It's a base 2.7.
So that's really interesting. So when you kind of get in between the G718 GT4, the Sports Cup edition, and then the base Cayman, talk us through how you feel the differences in how you feel, how the car feels to you. because they're both very great cars, but they're great in different areas as well.
I have to say that I didn't drive the GT4 for a long time because I picked it up on last, I guess it was Thursday. I've placed it into the garage. That's it. So
actually, while I get this moment, big round of applause, everyone. Give everyone a thumbs up to Klaus, because he ordered his car, but then given the COVID-19 situation, I think delivery was supposed to be, was it 2 weeks ago, Klaus?
Yeah, 2.5 weeks ago, and the car was arriving on Tuesday. On a Wednesday, all the authorities in Germany closed, and I didn't get the car registered. So I was waiting for more than 2 weeks to get the car home with a license plate, and that was kind of a horrible time for me, because you already paid the car. The car standing over there, already sat in the car. I gave you all the pictures and the movies. And I was like, oh, I want to have it in my garage. It doesn't make a difference if it's standing over there or if it's standing here in my garage. But, you want to have it close to you. And no, I'm glad I have it. And I will go for a ride in maybe 45 minutes, 1 hour when we're done.
Can you tell us how you felt leaving the garage? So there was a few questions from the viewers. The Sports Cup edition is Germany only, so you can't purchase it outside of Germany. Roughly about 100 cars. When you left that Porsche showroom, Klaus, I mean, everyone would have been like, wow, what is that? I mean, how was that experience?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a special car, and I mean, the GT4 is a special car, regardless if it's a Sports Cup edition or not. But as I have the Sports Cup edition, and as I really have to say, I felt in love with the Sports Cup edition because I really love this color scheme. I'm normally not the guy who really loves all the stickers on the car, but with this car, it really looks amazing. And even better in reality, I have to say. When you see the car in real life, you stand in front of the car, you say like, wow, this is really cool. Yeah. And as I left the shop, it was like, it was an amazing moment. Every time you pick up a nice car and you really love what you do with the car. I mean, I love driving the car. And if you know, now you can drive it home, you can drive whenever you want, wherever you want. This is a nice feeling, of course. And just to your last question with the 987, I have to say I have a very special relationship to this 987 because this was my first Porsche that I bought, and there are many memories going along with this Porsche. And I have to say, of course, it's not the performance Porsche. It's not as an eye catcher as the Sports Cup edition, but that's not interesting for me. I love driving the car. It's still a nice car. I still have the proof warranty from Porsche on the car, and it's well maintained. And everybody who drives in the car, everybody who sees the car, loves the car. And I have to say, now the car they started building the 987 in 2005. Now we have 2020. It already has a little like this old-fashioned look, the very, very wavy, not so sharp, detailed like the GT4, a little bit more. You know what I mean? It has a special look, which is a little bit old school.
He's got a base Cayman. I think they'd call it the classic look. We'd go for classic as opposed to old fashioned.
It is classic look. It has. I have the nice Carrera. How are they called? Carrera. I don't know. The nice big wheels on it, and I have to say the car looks pretty cool with that wheels, and it's still a nice car. I'm still loving it, regardless of other super nice Porsches that do exist. But as I said, special relationship. First Porsche I've bought, many night shifts for me. Yeah, nice car.
Cool. I'm happy. I've got a question for you, Boris. So I know Phil's had a Boxster and he's in his GT4. What was your first Porsche, brother? Was it a Macan or something?
Yeah, I had a Macan diesel. This was back in 2017. So that was my first Porsche. I took it in, I think it was April or May 2017. And in between that, there's been quite a few other Porsches as well. I've had... Well, my recent one before this was an SUV. It was a Cayenne Coupe Turbo. I had that for 3-4 months. So it was the complete opposite of the Cayman, a huge car with a massive turbocharged engine with a lot of power. And then before that, I had a 911 992 cab, which again was the first cabriolet I had. So I've had quite a few different Porsches. So it's nice to kind of go through the range and see the different products that Porsche offer. And I really feel like with the Cayman, the package is all right from the size. Initially, I was a bit, I don't want to say I felt as though the car would be underpowered, but having the Cayenne Coupe, which was 550 horsepower, and then going down to just over 400, I thought it'd be vastly different. But you have to judge it as a package, and the way the Cayman comes together as a package and how it makes you feel, especially out on country roads and the handling, I think that's where it comes alive. So with the Cayman, for me, it's not straight line performance. It's the package, it's the handling, it's the chassis, it's the balance that really sets it apart from other cars.
I mean, given the fact that you were used to so much power before, how would you say that you've adapted? Because I know you love your GT4. You obviously you give up a bit of the kind of the 911 turbo. The kind of like when you put your foot down, you get thrown into the back of the chair. But
correct.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you get out of the GT4, even though it's on torque and power?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because before that I had a Ferrari which was 700 horsepower. So the GT4 is, I mean, 60% of the horsepower. The difference I found is being turbocharged, you get a lot of the power lower down in the rev range. So going back to Phil's point, and I think it's quite a good point that Phil made, that low down, the torque you could possibly have more. So it's only when you get above 4,500 revs that you really feel the car starts to move a lot. So for me, the key thing is people complain, but just keep it in higher RPM. Like make sure you're above 4,000 in that magical band between 4 and 8,000, and it's absolutely perfect. And you know, there's a lot of talk about long gearing and the fact that you can go on. I mean, in second gear, you can get up to 65, 70 miles per hour, which is like the national speed limit on a UK highway. But as long as you're in that rev band and you're high up, I think the car is alive and it's fantastic. But if you're in fourth or fifth gear at 30 miles per hour and you put your foot down, the Cayman doesn't really move, Max, to answer your question.
There you go. There's a few questions sort of coming in about, what you think about upgrading. Are there any upgrades you would think of doing to your GT4s which are aftermarket? So I guess I'll start with Phil down the bottom. So would you like touch it with an exhaust mod or anything else?
I don't think there's much point, if I'm honest, because to stay legal in Europe, you've got to keep the particulate filters. So maybe dropping back. The thing that people talk about often is changing the exhaust, because the sound's different on the GT4, the 718 versus the 981. I'm not too worried about the external sound of the car, if I'm honest. I've had two 981s. They're nice. The pop and crackle is okay. The sound in the cabin for me in the GT4 is really nice. You really hear the engine in the back. Aftermarket mods probably wouldn't, to be honest. The exhaust stuff doesn't really interest me. You can't do anything about the particulate filter anyway, so it's going to be just incremental, if you know what I mean. And it's all going to be noise, right? And I guess with a naturally aspirated engine, unless you're going to do mechanical mods to get more torque, or I know on the 981 or the 981 there was a different gearing ratio, but now I want to keep my warranty. I don't really want to customize it too heavily, to be fair. I think next year, though, I'll get a wrap. So I've got a PPF wrap on the car at the moment because I'll track it this year. And maybe Waris, maybe just stealing your limelight here, Max, but maybe Waris, if you can talk about the track day you did, I'd be keen to know how the car moves on a track, right? So I had it clear wrap because I'm going to track it this year. And then next year, I'm going to get a colour wrap with a design on it just for fun.
This is a good topic you mentioned about wrapping, because I was speaking to Klaus, and Klaus, if you can come on to this, the red stripes, it's not paint, it's stickers, isn't it? So have you spoken to anyone about the wrapping options, if that's possible?
Yeah, I was talking to a very good friend of mine that I know from school who has his own wrapping company close by. And I was talking and discussing this thing because I was like, you spend so much money. Do I wrap the car? We ended up saying, if I wrap the car, only the front parts of the car. But I'm not sure. The point is, once you wrap the car and you need to take a certain wrapping that is also approved by Porsche. Otherwise, I would have problems in 24 months when I want to have a new approved warranty on my car. Then the dealer might probably say, oh, this is not a Porsche approved wrapping. Might be interesting, you know.
To interrupt you, is that true? You need a Porsche approved wrapping to keep
You
the
do.
warranty?
Of course, you cannot use any wrap. You need a wrap that is approved by Porsche. I don't know how these wraps are called, but of course, also the painting is a warranty thing and an issue. And if you have the approved warranty from Porsche, they are also reliable for the paint. And as long as they cannot see the paint, or as long as they don't know what kind of wrapping you're using, you don't get the warranty. And I know people who just wrapped their car, drove to Porsche, wanted to do the warranty thing, and they said, yeah, you can unwrap your car again or no warranty. I mean,
I had no idea about it. Let me know in the comments. I had no idea if you buy a new Porsche and you wrap it through a non-approved dealership, that could void your warranty. I mean, that's just...
I have to say, with the GT4 it doesn't work, but with the latest 911, the 992, you can already wrap your car from Porsche itself. So you can, when you order your car, you can say, I want to have it wrapped. Porsche does it for you. You get your car, it's already wrapped. The point why I will most probably not do it is because it's a logical thing. You put the wrap on the car, you leave the car wrapped like 5, 6, 7, maybe more years. Today, the wrappings, they can hold for sometimes 10 years. And then you have a problem. You want to remove the wrapping. So when you remove the wrap, what's coming up with the wrapping?
Yeah.
All the stickers that are on the car. Yeah. So I removed more or less, and then it looks like a normal GT4 from the outside.
Actually, Boris, you said something quite interesting, because I mean, your GT4 is obviously black. And generally, I mean, I'll let you, just to recap on that, generally you wouldn't go for a white car, but you kind of like how Klaus's cars, how Porsche have done the red kind of stripes and so on.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of modifications, I'd never modified a car before, but when I got my GT4, I was like, I'm going to modify it. So I turned it into this fake sport cop edition by putting like 2 stripes on it. So it's similar. I got matte stripes going across and through the back as well. And I ordered an exhaust for it because for me, the 718, the exhaust is I don't want to say not as good as the 981, but it's definitely not as loud as the 981. And for me, having a naturally aspirated engine, I wanted to hear as much noise as possible. So I ordered an exhaust in December, and it was a freaking nightmare. So I paid, I don't want to mention the company, I don't want to mention the person, but I paid something like £4,000 in December. Was told that, you know, it gone into production. I mean, don't get me wrong, the model had just come out at that point, so there weren't many aftermarket companies making exhausts for 718 GT4. So yeah, my exhaust was meant to arrive in January, never came. End of January, never came. February, never came. March, I just got to the point where I was like, shit, just give me my money back. I don't really care for the exhaust so much. So I got a refund. So yeah, I wanted an exhaust, but I never ended up getting it. Would I get one now? Probably not, because the interesting thing is I feel as though the noise or the sound of the 718 is changing, for mine at least. The fact that I've driven it now and it's touching 2,000 miles, I feel as though the noise has kind of evolved, and it's not louder, but it sounds sweeter than it did before. I've started enjoying the noise more and more. Maybe it's grown on me, or I don't know what's happened, but I don't feel the need to have an exhaust anymore. So I'm kind of happy I saved this 4K because yeah. Cool. Apart from that, the track day you were talking about, Phil, I was meant to do one on the 30th, which was March last month, but because of the COVID situation, it all got cancelled. I've done one at Silverstone, which is like an experience center day, and that was 2.5 hours on a track, and it was amazing. So really, really good. Had a really good time.
Fantastic. There's a question that's come in from the guys. So if I can go down to you, Phil, now. What are your thoughts on the 4-cylinder turbocharged engines that Porsche put into the Caymans?
I don't think there's anything wrong with them. You know, the car's still, the car's still a Cayman. It's still an awesome chassis, still mid-engine. but it wasn't for me. You know, I took a couple out for a test drive, and it lacked a little something. Now that little something was actually a little bit that the 718 doesn't have. It was a little bit of that noise, you know, the exterior noise, but internally in the cabin it lacked a bit of noise as well. It was no different to being in a VW, to be honest. You know, my friends Volkswagen all, and nothing wrong with it at all. But it wasn't what I was wanting in a Porsche.
Yeah.
I think I think Porsche realised it as well, right? So they're going to put the 4-litre 6-cylinder back into the 718 range. I think they dipped a toe in the 4-cylinder turbo market and realised it's not driving sales at all. I think that's awesome for the second-hand car market, for people that want to maybe venture into buying a Porsche. I think the 718s will, you know, the ones that are out currently with the 4-cylinder, I think sadly for current owners, they'll drop a little bit in price, but for folks wanting to get their toe in the Porsche market, I think that's awesome because it's an awesome car. The one thing it has in its advantage with being a turbo is it's got a little bit more lower end torque. So it's got what my GT4 I think needs a little bit more of. But like Warry said, if you keep it 4,000 or 5,000 RPM above, then the GT4 really sings. Yeah. But just pop into the shop to buy bread at 6,000 RPM.
No, it's probably not great.
It's a little bit aggressive in my village.
And Klaus, being our German resident here, what do you think about the 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that Porsche put in their cars?
Yeah, same as Phil already said. I mean, it's a great car. It's a great looking car. It's a great driving machine. Everybody says that. Whoever drove a 718 4-cylinder. I had the opportunity to drive the base 718 Boxer and the 718 Cayman GTS, but not the 4.0, the normal 2.5 turbocharged. And I have to say, yeah, it has a lot of torque. It's really a driving machine, but emotional wise, and that's nothing new to us. It's lagging a little bit of emotion. Yeah? I mean, if you drive a sports car, you also want to have a nice sound. And this was also one of the reasons why I never decided to go for a 718 4-cylinder model, I have to say.
Well,
yeah.
that's one of the things I was going to say, Max. Like, I think people are kind of quick to criticize, and I'm probably the same as well with the sound of the 718, and you know, we pick little bits and pieces. But actually, if you look at the market right now, for the same money, which other companies are giving you a mid-engine, naturally aspirated engine with the same setup at that price point? I mean, I can't think of any companies where you can get the same.
Yeah.
What made you laugh there, Phil?
I think there's is it Corvette have now got their
the C8 Corvette. To be honest, the C8 Corvette, I would love to test drive that car.
I'm not. I think I'd like to go in it for sure. Just a quick one while we're talking about engines. Richard Hill posted about 4 cylinders necessary for emissions, but I actually think that's not true. If you look at what they've done with this new 4-litre 6-cylinder, that's now going to become their base engine for many models. So Porsche have solved the emission challenge with a 6-cylinder naturally aspirated engine. You know, it's smart enough to turn half the engine off when it knows you're doing city type driving. So I think Porsche realised they can solve it in a different way. They don't need to go the turbo route on all of their cars to do that, and they'll keep the turbo, I think, for the super higher end performance. And I think they'll meet their emissions targets with this. I think this engine's now their platform for the future range.
I didn't realise that. So do we think... So I've heard that the electrified Caymans are not going to happen in the next generations. So we could get a 6-cylinder... Like after the 718, the Caymans will still have a 6-cylinder naturally aspirated engine. Klaus, is that what we think?
I read something totally different just a couple of days ago here in Germany. I heard that the Caymans are also getting electrified. The Boxers and the Caymans because the whole Macan series here in Germany gets electrified. I think there will be no petrol engines anymore in Macans.
I've heard the same. For Macan, I've definitely heard the
same. For the
same.
Caymans, I've heard that the battery technology, it was too heavy for the Cayman, and they couldn't make it work.
The less information I got, I read it just a couple of days ago, is that from I think 2022, that's what they are planning. They are also selling Caymans with electro engine, and in my opinion, I think it's a cool idea. I have to say, because I mean I already drove the Taycan. And I also drove the Tesla with a friend of mine, and I have to say, I mean, you have to get used to it, and everybody's like, you need the petrol sound and everything, and I'm absolutely with you guys. I have aspirated engines in the garage, but I have to say the electric cars are also, I think they are pretty cool, beside the fact that they have acceleration which is not comparable to any other car in the world. If you drive the Taycan, for example, the Turbo S, I mean, this is from another. That's the next level, I have to say.
Did you drive the Taycan and take? Oh, go on, Boris. You're going to say something. Go.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Klaus. I think it's quite interesting, the whole electrification thing, but I don't see electric as something to drive on the track. I was lucky enough to go in a Taycan 4S in Leipzig, and I went around the circuit there. And we had two models. One was a base or a standard 4S, and one had this Sound Plus package. So on the base one, it was super silent. So you just see the miles per hour increasing, and there is no noise whatsoever. So it's like a little bit of a surreal feeling, especially on a racetrack. It feels strange. We then went in another Taycan, which had this Sound Plus package. And basically, when you accelerate hard, it makes the car, well, I'd say I'd compare it, it makes it sound like a UFO. So you have this this whooshing sound, and it's like some sci-fi noise, and you're going like super quick. So maybe it's like my brain that needs to recalibrate and readjust to the whole thing. But I don't know. I completely agree how the acceleration is and how, instantaneous it is. The throttle response is insane. I remember at one point we came back in the pit lane, and because there's no rev range. It's at any speed at any time you touch the accelerator and you just go. So I remember at 30 miles per hour I floored it, and this was just a 4S, and I was thrown back in my seat. So the performance is phenomenal, but that psychological element of not having a sound to go with it, it's a little strange. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
I think that that'll slowly die out, right? I think we are a generation that will slowly get smaller and smaller, and cars will become less about those things we attach to emotions. And I think it's inevitable, unfortunately. I think we're kind of lucky to be on that fringe as that awesome technology, electric technology kicks in. I also was lucky enough to get in a Taycan S, and that reminded me, Klaus, I don't know if you know Europa Park. There's a theme park in Germany called Europa Park.
Oh, Europa Park. Yeah, I know. It's not in Germany.
And there's a roller coaster called Blue Fire. And I think that's the quickest acceleration of a roller coaster. And the Taycan was better than that. It was insane.
Yeah.
But it's not. I think somebody asked here a Taycan or a GT4. They're not comparable cars whatsoever.
Different cars.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't know how it is with you guys, but here in Germany right now, I have to say that driving a GT4 is also. Money-wise, it's also much cheaper right now. The gas prices are so low, and they had been rising all the energy prices to fuel your electro cars. That had been they doubled or tripled the prices for the electro cars, really, to charge them. And the normal oil prices are so low right now. So right now, it's really enjoyable to do GT4, I have to say.
Boris, if I can ask you one question that was going through on the comments, and he said, how does the 718 GT4 handle in the wet? Like, have you had any sort of seat of the pants moments?
How does it handle in the wet?
Not well.
Not well is probably the best way of putting it. I mean, not well. It handles great, but it's transferring the power onto the road that's an issue. I remember when Phil was visiting the UK. So Phil came a couple of months ago, and we did a little trip. Phil was on winter tires, and I think that makes a massive difference, because I remember on the day it was raining, and at one point Phil put his foot down and his car just disappeared. So I think that the setup the car comes with, the semi-slick partial racing tires, I don't think they work very well. Never mind in the wet, even when the temperatures are cold. So when I drive the car for 10 minutes, if it's cold and it's like 5 degrees, if I floor the car, I can never get the full power down.
Yeah. I mean, this is something, while we're talking about tyres, I think, Klaus, you kind of mentioned this in terms of one of your comments on one of my videos when we saw Boris's car, was you were quite surprised it was on Dunlops. So,
Yeah.
because typically...
To be honest, Max, I'd rather not speak about this.
Okay.
No, carry on. Yeah, I was so shocked at this. Like, I thought all of them came with Michelin, and then all of a sudden mine rocks up with Dunlop, and I'm thinking, what the hell went wrong here? I mean, did they come off another car, or what happened? But Klaus probably knows better, but it's the first time I saw Dunlop on a GT4.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours is the first GT4 was with the Dunlops, basically, because I saw the comparison of the 981 versus the 982 sound-wise, and you were filming the tires in Dunlops, and I was like, huh? I was 10 seconds, 20 seconds back, one more look, really, Dunlop? Okay, I never saw a GT4 with Dunlops.
I've got to say, you had me really worried there, because your face went really serious, and I'm like, I'm dead, this is live, what do I do?
No, I mean, it's just it's weird that it came with Dunlops, but actually even the Cayenne that I had previously, it came with Dunlops as well. I think it's 50-50 with a lot of the cars, with 911 as well, whether they come with Dunlop or Michelin. It really depends on I don't know whether it's the batch that's being produced or whether it's something to do with the factory. I'm not entirely sure, but I did a factory tour of Leipzig a month ago or something like this, and you had both sets of tires there, going on Cayenne, going on what else did they have, McCann and Panamera. So it's definitely across the whole range. It's not just the GT4.
There's a few comparison videos of folks that have looked at the Dunlops and the Michelins, and I think, well, certainly for my driving skill, I'll never put either tyre to the test, right? So I think for most folks in how they use their car, I don't think it makes any difference.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I kind of mentioned the tyre technologies is, Klaus, I mean, do you think you could maybe just talk us through some of the extra goodies you get with your kind of car?
Yeah, of course. As I purchased the car a couple of weeks later, I received this pretty cool, pretty fancy Sports Cup Edition model. There are, it's kind of funny, 718 built in black and white, and I have number 1429. My one is white, as I have the white car in real. It's pretty good. It even has the red driver's seat inside. So a pretty cool feature. What I also got is this, it's a kind of a brochure that you were also able to get on the presentation in October 2019 at the Hockenheim Ring. Basically, it just shows all the informations and the special things about the Sports Cup Edition on the rear. And this is a nice part, I think. This is a nice poster. You can place in your in the boys' room. And what else do I got? I got that's kind of cool because we have been talking about the Michelin tires.
Yes.
I received this kind of nice package which says Colors of Racing, and there is a white and a black card inside. Show this to the audience. One in white and one in black. I guess they've placed both inside because they didn't know in advance which color you take. And included with this card comes a weekend at the Porsche Sports Cup. And you can decide where you want to go. There are 6 Sport Cup weekends in Germany and Austria this year. I don't know if they will happen as promised because of the COVID-19 issue. But as I said, there are 6 races. One is in Austria at the.
No, you say they're races, but it's non-competitive. You're not really racing against other GT4 owners, are you?
You do. You can. That's what it's all about. So this is basically this Sports Cup thing is something that's in between the professional series, where really the real race drivers drive on the weekend against each others, and there are also these training camps where you, if you for example have a 911 or a Cayman or whatever Porsche you drive, you go and have an instructor, and they show you how to drive the car in certain conditions and to get a little bit faster. And this Sports Cup thing is something in between. That's something for Porsche owners who have a serial street legal Porsche, but who also would like to go for some racing on the weekends.
Wow.
And
you'll have to forgive me because I didn't realise the Sports Cup edition was a racing kind of classification as well.
It is, and it was introduced in 2005, so it became 15 years anniversary. 15 years anniversary was last year. That's why the Sports Cup edition was coming out, and that's the reason why I have the 15 on my doors on the left and right hand side. So this is kind of the anniversary present for the Sports Cup.
And the reason I wasn't trying to call out your Dunlops, Boris, but could you kind of mention the tyre conditions on the?
Yeah. What I was trying to get to, and there is the Drivers' Cup, the Trophy Cup, and the Porsche Sports Cup. And the Porsche Sports Cup is the highest racing level in the Sports Cup weekend. So if you've already been doing the Cup and the Trophy, you are qualified. You can qualify for the Sports Cup race, and you are only allowed to go on this Sports Cup race with Michelin tires. You are not allowed to go there with Dunlops. So this is one of the things that you have to have on the car.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be right if they sold a Sports Cup edition on Dunlops because you wouldn't be able to use the free track day pass.
I saw a couple of Sports Cup editions standing around with Dunlops.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Wow.
Crazy. So while we're on the topic of tyres, there's a few questions that have been popping up. So we've had a guy, Andy, and this is the guy, Andy, I was hoping to meet up. There's no winter tyre package for the GT4 in the UK. So, I mean, Boris, have you ever inquired about winter tyres?
I haven't, but that is really surprising that there isn't, because the dimensions of the tyre, it's quite a common tyre.
Phil, didn't you have to buy another set of wheels for the winter tyres?
Yeah. So Porsche wouldn't sell me winter tyres. I don't think they're approved. You have to get a full wheel package. So I've got a set of 911 winter wheels and tyres on my GT4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Serious investment then if you want to do
winter tyres. It was an unplanned cost as well. I stupidly assumed I could use I have another winter wheel set from my GTS. And I'd naively assumed I could just put those on, and they just laughed at me in the dealership as they fleeced another 9,000 out of me for a wheel set.
Wow! But I guess in Switzerland it's mandatory, isn't it? You have to have winter tyres.
It isn't actually. It's not mandatory from a legal perspective, but it kind of is because your insurer won't cover you in the event that you have any accident in winter weather. The first thing they'll check is what wheels you've had. Wow. Years ago, I was parked and a car just reversed into me and put a crease in the front of my bonnet. I took that to an insurance kind of drop-in centre, and the only thing they checked was what wheels I had on.
Really?
That's the only thing they cared about. Yeah, because if it's a way out of paying out on a policy, then they'll find that way out.
Wow, that's tough. I mean, it's the same thing in Germany, Klaus. Do you have to do winter tyres, or can you get away with summers?
In Germany, they say you have to drive a certain tyre in the condition you're driving. It's not about wintertime or summertime. It's about, in the wintertime, it also can be like 10 degrees plus, and it's sunny. But they want you to see that, for example, if it's snowy or if it's icy in the morning hours or if it's freezing during the night, you need winter tires, definitely. And it's the same here with us, with our insurances. I mean, they have to pay, but at the end of the day, they will always say, yeah, this was not only the fault. Maybe if something happens of the other guy, it's also your fault because you didn't. Your braking way was longer because of the summer tires and the winter time or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's really the same, I would say.
Yeah. We've just got a funny comment from Robert. So I think he lives in Miami in the States, where I think it's sunny all the time. So he's kind of going, what are winter tires?
But there's a thing, Max, having been driven only in the UK before and only ever having all year round wheels. When I had my UK car in Zurich and it got cold, like that was like driving on plastic. They were just useless. And then it kind of makes me think, like back in January, like Boris said, when we just had slightly wet conditions, you could tell a difference in my traction versus the rest of the Caymans that were there. And then you kind of think, actually, in the UK, it's a little bit reckless that you can drive all year round on the same set of rubbers, regardless of conditions.
Yeah. I think with the UK, it has this beautiful 10 degrees of grayness all year round. So you never really go into winter and you never really go into summer. So it's something like, as long as you have an intermediate tire that's in between these two, you're fine. Because, I mean, in the last 6 to 8 months, we've just been through winter. I don't think that the temperatures drop below zero, not in London anyway. And in the summer, it's 20, 25 degrees. So yeah, I can completely understand places like Germany or Switzerland or places where the temperature dips quite a lot and winter is winter and summer is summer. Tires makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's the cold, though. Like the wet or like when I go back up to Yorkshire, we've got some awesome country driving roads. And if they get greasy with leaves or water, then that makes for fun driving, don't get me wrong, but there's still a massive difference in summer and winters at that point.
I'm laughing. We just had a comment from someone called Leo. He said the solution is to get a four-wheel drive Quattro. So I don't know which car you're referring to, Leo, but we're talking two sports cars here. Audi RS. Oh, okay. Oh dear. Well, I had a Jaguar before, which was on Dunlops, believe it or not. But I did find, as I went to the Michelin tyres, because they're optimised more for grip in the summer, I do find that they're worse in the winter. So I kind of get Phil's point where, I think I went out and he's probably at -2. And it is, you're right. I think they call it, the rubber becomes like plastic. Or there's I think the term they call glassing, where the rubber compound acts like it's slippery in glass. So it's a fair point, I mean... Maybe I should get winter tires one day.
It's kind of interesting because yesterday evening I was reading my new booklet here for the GT4 here lying on the sofa, and it said that the cup tires, for example, if you store them below -7 degrees Celsius, they start to crack.
Yeah.
So you should definitely avoid minus temperatures around -7 or less. So, it's also clearly said that at +7 degrees or less, the sports cup tires are not senseless, but they do not work.
Yeah. I mean, you get
Klaus, has yours come with ceramic brakes, the sports cup edition? Is that an option, or does it normally come with steels as standard?
Steel.
Honestly, if the car would have come with PCCB, I wouldn't have bought the car. Because this is something I also drive it, for example, on the Sports Cup on the weekends, but I'm not one of the guys who's racing the car every weekend. For me, also I see it here in Germany, there are only very few GT4s leaving the factory for the German market with PCCB, really. So because they are very expensive, because every time you have to change the brakes, I don't know how much it is, it's 3,000-4,000 euros, I guess. The whole package is 8,000 euros if you want to have PCCBs compared to the normal brakes.
This is quite to the UK market, because I'd probably say most GT4s in the UK, they always have PCCB.
Also...
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Klaus.
Yeah, and I also do not have the roll cage, because this is also something that lets the car look sportier. But at the end of the day, I really do not need it. I mean, for me, I drive sporty. I also drive it on the weekends, or also sometimes on the racetrack. But I would say most of the times I drive it on a normal street. And the roll cage and the PCCBs are not really. I don't need them at the end of the day. And to need them, you really need to take the car very hard. I already saw that.
I think that's a fair point. And you were saying that most cars for the UK, Max, come with PCCB, but most GT cars in the UK are driven 300 miles a year and then put in a storage, and no one takes them out.
I didn't want to get too controversial, but I think in the UK it's such a status thing, and it's like an object of desire and monetary. It's like a monetary thing. The options are always carbon, roll cage, PCCB, and then, as Boris says, they don't drive them.
But I found something really interesting. I always thought the stopping distance with ceramics was better than it is with steels. But the stopping distance is identical between ceramics and steel. There is no difference. The only... It's all dependent on the tire. And actually, the only difference between ceramics, carbon ceramics and steel is the temperatures at which they operate. So the band for steel is way less than the band for carbon ceramics. So that's why you have brake fade with steel on a racetrack, whereas carbon, they fade much less. But in terms of stopping power, it's identical. There is no difference.
Yeah. We had a question from Robert coming here saying, have you ever had any sort of couple of scary moments with ceramic brakes in the rain? Now, I'm not sure. I think Phil was kind of mentioning. Maybe Phil can go first on this.
Well, when I was specking mine, there's a guy that I follow on Instagram. He's a Swiss guy. He posts loads of really cool pictures. He's just got a GT4 as well. And I was chatting to him about my spec, and he had ceramics on his GTS. And I said, I'm going to get them for the first time on a GT4. And he said, just be careful in the wet. And because the first time you go to grab your brakes, they may not work. And I kind of thought he was joking. And then we're in the UK and we're driving along the motorway in convoy, which is super cool. And I had to hit the brakes. And the first time I went to go for them, nothing. Fortunately, there was enough of a distance. But then I'm pumping the brake like a lunatic, thinking, "Oh my god!" But that now. Anytime I drive mine, if there's fine rain, any water, I'll occasionally just hit the brake and just clean the water off the disc.
Wow.
I'm with Klaus, actually. I think I shouldn't have taken PCCB because I've had a bad experience with them in the past. I mean, when I had my Ferrari, it came as standard with PCCB. Well, not PCCB, but carbon ceramic brakes. And I had a chip. So my ceramic disc got chipped, one of the rare ones. And I ended up selling the car without actually replacing them. But the actual replacement cost for the pair, because you can't just replace one side because they weigh differently, and you need pads, so you can't just replace the disc without the pads. The rare pads were, I think, £1,100, and the discs, if you wanted the disc all round, it was 11,000. And if you just wanted the rare pads in this, it was around £6,000, £6,500. And it just scared me so much. So now I was just thinking, okay, it's for that extra bit of durability, it's just not worth it, because I'd rather change a steel disc 2 or 3 times over and have the same stopping power, in contrast to the actual cost of ceramics. It's scary.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that time when we were all driving in Conway. That was fantastic. So, Klaus, once this whole thing is over, I want to come visit yourself and Phil in Germany and Zurich. We'll kind of do some touring, because there's nothing better. That day that we had driving in Convoy, I mean, I'll put this video up again. I was laughing when I did this intro video because we were driving to Goodwood Racetrack, but we ended up spending about half an hour, 45 minutes in a car park. We couldn't get out. Let's put this video on again. So thanks for not bringing it up and having a go at me. It was this one.
I mean, whose bright idea was it to go to a car park?
No, but so as we were approaching Goodwood, I had to put the camera on the front of my car So it was supposed to be
just to give your viewers a recap of what actually happened. So Max was in charge of all the logistics of the day, and he managed to pick this beautiful car park to put his cameras on, which he could have done anywhere else on the day. And we went to this car park, and how long did we spend there, Phil? It must have been an hour and a half.
I'm bald. I turned up with a fringe and I left bald. That's what you were there for.
But listen, I'm coming to visit you guys, so you'll have to do all the planning for me.
Yeah, not a problem, mate. It's not a problem.
But listen, I know we've done the 1 hour mark, so this is your last chance, anyone. If you've got any questions for the guys here, quickly get typing on your keyboards or your phones. Next week, we're not going to be featuring GT4 owners. We're going to be featuring someone else. It's Anthony. So we've featured his car on this channel before, and he's in Sydney. So here it will be a Sunday. He'll be joining us on a Monday. But while we've got these guys here, this has been a fantastic time. I'm going to basically hand it over to each one of you just to talk about anything else you want to do. Because I don't know about you, I could keep talking, but I guess other people have got lives. I could do this all the time, but I want to respect the fact you've probably got more of a social life than me, because I'm not really going anywhere these days. So yeah, Phil, over to you. Do you want to say anything in terms of add to what we've said so far?
Oh, I think it's been a good chat, Max. I think we've covered quite a lot of topics. It's good to see the questions still rolling in. I think there's mileage in this format, Max, for sure, and I'll be happy to jump in another session at some point for sure.
Okay, we've got a last minute question from 1530 Swimmer. What was your first car?
Peugeot 206.
Klaus, your first car?
Daihatsu Sherry.
Boris?
That's so sure.
It was a Renault Clio.
Okay, I had a Austin Metro 1.0L. Okay, a few more questions all coming in towards the end. I'll go the same way. So Phil, your preferred alternative to the GT4?
Whoa, that's I'd have to have a little sit down and think about that. For a while, I thought about getting the Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio, which I think you get a lot of engine for your money. I'm actually not a massive car person in terms of lots of other things are on my kind of wish list. I like Porsche for sure. I'm tempted to go 911 next, just to kind of tick that one off. I've never owned a 911. I've driven them. But right now, I love the Cayman. I think that's, for the money, it's a sweet spot of a car for sure.
Phil, you're not answering the question. You got to pick something. Come on.
Well, what would I go? Just come back to me. I'll have a think.
Okay, we'll come back. Klaus, your preferred alternative to the GT4?
Doesn't exist right now, but I hope that there is a 992T arriving in the next couple of months or next year. I have to say I drove the 992 a couple of times in the last couple of months, and beside the fact that it's a larger car, it's not as agile as the GT4 or the Caymans, but I have to say I felt in love with the 992 somehow. There is a connection. I think I need a 992 in the future.
Yeah. And Boris, what would be your preferred alternative to the GT4?
I don't know, like a Bugatti or something. We're talking. It depends what how much. It's monetary, right? There's no limit to where you can go. If I had to choose something like for like, it'd probably be an Aston Martin GT8, even though that's maybe 50-60 grand more. But I'd probably go for a GT8.
Wow, okay. And we've got a great question. So, congratulations. Boris is receiving a GT4 in 30 days or so. He'd like to know what you don't like on your car. So, Boris, while we're with you, if you want to stick with that.
What I don't like with my car? That's a tough question. I would say that the interior probably is starting to look a little dated for me. Because I had the 992 before. I mean, it's very subjective. This car is more analog than some of the previous cars I've owned. So from a technology point of view, I still feel it's maybe 5, 7, 8 years, or it's last generation compared to now.
Okay. And Klaus, what would you say is something? Well, you've only recently you've had your car about a week, so I'm guessing it's.
yeah. There are certain things in the Sports Cup edition I necessarily do not need, I have to say. For example, the super pooper door mats for 600 euros with the stitching and all that stuff. This is something I'm normally not that type that buys stuff like this for a huge amount of money just to put your foot on. I mean, this is just something you buy in the package. I love the car overall, but I have to say there are certain things that are a little bit over-tweaked for me, but that's the way it is. Yeah.
There you go. And Phil, we're going to come back to you on this one.
Oh, what don't I like on? Let me answer that one first, Max, because Alcantara. I hate Alcantara.
What?
I'd de-option it if I could do.
But that's the reason that I like. You're nuts.
Max, get him off the call.
I know. That's the reason I want a GTS and a GT4.
Alcantara on the steering wheel, I can live with. All dotted around. Max, we talked about this before. I'm kind of with you, Rice. I think tech-wise, the cabin isn't high-tech, but I'm all right with that. I don't think it needs to be. I still think there's too many materials in the cockpit. You know, I
think, Phil, the only negative about Alcantara these days, and this is personal, is when I get in, I'm using these wet wipes to wipe the gear lever and the handles because of this virus. And Alcantara, you can't wipe it. I don't know if you've had a similar problem, but yeah, this is the only reason that today was annoying me, that the material, it doesn't allow you to wipe.
Yeah, for sure, and it ages. I think it doesn't age very well, but. Alcantara, I don't like the silly fabric door handles. I think, come on, I don't get that.
Bill, you've got a GT. Do you want my car? Okay.
I love my GT4.
Like, it sounds like this is Phil on the GT4 configurator. Take off the Alcantara, take off the door pulls, take off the spoiler, raise the car a bit.
The one thing I would say is it's a bit too busy, the whole cockpit. There's too many materials, slightly too many colours going on. I think Porsche could do a lot better if they just simplified that. But that's first world niggles, you know.
Well, I'm trying to wrap this up quickly. So Boris, Neil Fox is a guy I've met before. He's had basically the GTS, he's had Boxsters. He didn't get a GT4 allocation, and because he didn't get a GT4 allocation, he went and got an Aston Martin V8. So he has the Vantage. So, you know, that could be an issue. You kind of mentioned you'd go Aston Martin, so that's kind of interesting. So Neil, you know, this is someone that has a GT4 but still could think about having an Aston Martin. So, you know, good for you there. I'm going to see if we've got any last few questions, and I know you guys have got lives. GT3 for you. Cayman a little behind. What do you mean Cayman's a... So, Leo, what car do you own, by the way? Do you have an Audi, is what I'm guessing. It looks like that's a bit... It looks like we're going to wrap up now. Thank you very much for your comments. Guys, I'm going to hand it over to you just if you want to say anything else before I kind of do a bit of a wrap up. I appreciate we're about 8 minutes over schedule, so thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, nothing from me.
There you go. I like that. Wazzy machine. Phil dropping the bomb on Alcantara. That's classic. So hang on. You've got a fan out there, Phil. So this guy's just ordered a GT4 with leather steering wheel. So is Alcantara delete an option on the GT4, by the way?
On the steering wheel, you have options for the wheel on a GT4, and you can get a leather one. But I think Alcantara on the steering wheel, that makes sense. Door panels, seats, does not.
Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us on this channel. Thank you for you joining us out here. The comments have been great. This is our first Sunday lockdown special. We're going to do another episode next Sunday, and we're featuring Anthony on that channel. Thank you, Boris. Thank you, Klaus. Thank you, Phil. It's been absolutely amazing. And yeah, thank you for joining us. This is the end of the show. Guys, we all good?
Thanks, Max. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Max.
Bye.
See you later. All right.
Yeah.